Hi there. Allow me to introduce myself quickly. My name is Josh Racette, and I'm a fourth-year engineering physics student at McMaster University. I'm currently specializing in nuclear energy systems, and I believe that this industry is going to need to become a sustainable form of power for the world until harnessing renewable energy sources such as wind and solar become much more effective than they are today. I think it's important to start off by saying, why does this need to become a sustainable form of energy for the majority of the world, as I've said? I believe it can be broken into two main sections. The first is that there's an obvious climate change happening, which has serious ties to CO2 emissions, which coal power plants produce enormous amounts of. The second is that there is not currently the technology to make renewable resources a major producer that does not hurt the average consumer in electricity costs. First off, I'd like to start by talking about how greenhouse gas emissions can be reduced and how this would have a positive effect on climate change. As most of us know, climate change has become a major issue every single year since the early 2000s, with 15 of the 16 hottest years on record starting in 2001, and the hottest ever being 2015. If this is not a wake-up call for people who refuse to believe greenhouse gas emissions are a problem, then that is an upsetting thing to know personally. And I think that this is where the nuclear industry can become a beneficial source of power today, since there are zero CO2 emissions from a power plant. And this is one reason why I think these power plants need to be implemented on a much larger scale, despite their larger capital costs. This would, however, help the world out in the long run. If I use my home province of Ontario as an example, I think it'll help get the point across. In 1972, a coal power plant was commissioned in Nanticoke, Ontario, and in 2001, it became the largest producer of greenhouse gas emissions in all of Canada. It took 8 years of reduction technology before the emissions became so low that it was surpassed by another facility in Alberta. From 2004 to 2014, when it was fully decommissioned, it produced nearly 103 megatons of CO2 alone. Ontario now is lucky enough, however, to have 60% of its current electricity produced from nuclear power, now that there are no more coal power plants in Ontario. So, to eliminate large amounts of CO2, nuclear is one way to do this. The other reason that it has to do with renewable resources. I personally believe that renewable resources are a major necessity for the future for power requirements, but currently I do not see them having a major impact without major faults. Fossil fuels, which have been the basis of society since the Industrial Revolution, will one day be all used up. Hopefully, however, by then renewable resources can meet that demand. Until then, nuclear should definitely be an option to consider. Solar and wind power are excellent in that there should only be a capital cost, and then the power should flow freely almost. Yet, the technology to make these forms of power sustainable are not there currently. To produce viable amounts of wind and solar power, the space required is absolutely enormous. Meanwhile, nuclear fits into a smaller area for a large amount of power produced. Until the renewables resources can meet power demands equivalent to or greater than the current power needs without assistance, and without costing the consumer heavily, as you can see, nuclear is definitely the best option to work for us until then. So I would like to thank you for listening to this little talk of mine. I hope it helped you see nuclear power from a different perspective, and I would like to think this helped you agree that nuclear power is definitely a sustainable form of energy during this needed transition time from high greenhouse gas emitters to renewable resources. Have a good one. Thanks.